Колхоз присылать.
Run around, run around, run around, throwing that dirt all on my name. Cause you knew that I'd call you up. You've been going around, going around, going around every party in LA. Cause you knew that I'd be at one. Oh, I know that dress is karma, perfume regret. You got me thinking about when you were mine. And now I'm all up on you, what you expect. But you're not coming home with me tonight. You just want attention, you don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new. Yeah, you just want attention, I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over you. You've been running around, running around, running around, throwing that dirt all on my name. Cause you knew that I'd call you up. Baby, now that we're right here standing face to face, you already know that you won. Oh, I know that dress is karma, perfume regret. You got me thinking about when you were mine. And now I'm all up on what you expect. But you're not coming home with me tonight. You just want attention, you don't want my heart. Baby, you just hate the thought of me with someone new. Yeah, you just want attention, I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over you. What are you doing to me? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to me? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to me? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing to me? What are you doing? I know that dress is karma, perfume regret. You got me thinking about when you were mine. And now I'm all up on you, what you expect. But you're not coming home with me tonight. You just want attention, you don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new. Yeah, you just want attention, I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over you.
Compañeras y compañeros, amigas y amigos, hoy es un día muy importante. Es el día del Congreso del Partido Socialista Europeo en España, aquí en Málaga. Un día importante para Europa, un día importante para todos. Pero hoy hay un día también muy importante en nuestra historia reciente. Es el 23 de julio, porque el 23 de julio ha sido también un día fundamental por España, por Europa y por el socialismo europeo. Porque lo que ha pasado en España el 23 de julio es que la idea de una España y de una Europa progresista, abierta, feminista, europeísta, demócrata, diversa, ha ganado en contra a los otros, y no voy a definir cómo lo son los otros. Entonces, Pedro Sánchez, gracias. So welcome to the Congress of the Party of European Socialists. Last night we elected the president of our party, the former Prime Minister of Sweden, Stefan Löfven. Together with Stefan, the presidency has elected a leadership team. And what I would like to do now is to introduce to all of you our new leadership team for this new mandate. So I would like to have here on stage with me the President Stefan Löfven, the First Vice President Irache Garcia, the Executive Vice President Caterina Barley, the Executive Vice President Francisco André, the Vice President Tania Fayon, Vice President Victor Negrescu, Vice President Kati Piri, Vice President Andrei Senia, Vice President Radmila Shekerinska, the Treasurer, Caroline Jeunesse, the Deputy Secretary General, Yonek Pollet, the Deputy Secretary General, Sar van Buren, and the Deputy Secretary General, Thomas Baupel. And this is for the new leadership. But before moving on towards the future, we have to do a little moment looking just in the very recent past. As a new Secretary General, it is a real pleasure to invite on stage the just former Secretary General, Achim Post. I will say just a few words about Achim, and then also Stefan will. Really one sentence. It's very rare to find a team leader that is also a very good team player. And I think that Achim Post, in all these years, have been this for all of us at PES, and I believe in the SPD, and I believe for the whole European Socialist family. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your commitment. Vielen Dank. Du bist ein Genossen. Wunderbar.
Yes, today, friends, we are thanking really heartily former Secretary General Achim Post. You were elected the first time 2012. But this is a man with an experience far beyond that, far before that also, with so many different positions in the SPD and in the Bundestag. This is a man that I've become a close friend with during the years. and a man with his feet on the ground, very ideological, stable, but also an extremely pragmatic person. Also a good man to be with. It's nice to be with Achim. After today, I think we'll have a beer together. And I believe everybody knows that Achim also a great soccer fan. And when I was playing football, I had number 11. I was a left winger. Achim says that the most important number on soccer is number 6. Number 6 is a midfielder. And this is a true midfielder, hard-working midfielder. Thank you, Achim, for everything you've done. There you go.
So is this working? So, dear comrades, it's very simple. I'm still around. I will fight with you to win the European elections. Thank you, Pedro and Psoe. Thank you, PES and Stefan. Thank you, SPD and Olaf and Lars. Thanks a lot.
Good morning, Congress. I'm pleased to moderate the first conversation of today. We're here in Malaga to celebrate our victories. Again, congratulations, Presidente. But we're not only strong in Spain, we are leading across Europe. And our first speaker today is one of the central voices for our political family. Someone who has shown bold leadership over the past years, someone who has taken tough decisions and shown leadership when it was needed. So please, Congress, give a warm applause for the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz. Good morning. Hi, Olaf. So, good morning. Thank you. Chancellor. Last year you delivered a powerful speech, internationally renowned even, when you spoke about the Zeitenwende. So what does the Zeitenwende mean in Europe for you, in your view, in the international sense?
Thank you for your question, and I think we all know what Zeitenwende is. It is the coming back of imperialism, and this is what was the decision of Putin to try to conquer the territory of his neighbor, the Ukraine. And we have to understand that this changed the peace order of Europe, the security order, a lot. We agreed for many decades that changing borders by force should not be part of the reality of Europe anymore. And with the aggression against Ukraine, the Russian leader decided to change this agreement to fight against another country and just to try to get its territory to be Russian. And we cannot accept this, and we have to react to this Zeitenwende, and that means supporting Ukraine in defending their own country. Putin must not win. And it also means clearly that we all have to work intensely to stabilize our way of defending the territory of our countries and of NATO. And doing so, we took a lot of very tough decisions, spending more for defense, but increasing our cooperation. And also, I think this is part of it, reaching out to the Global South, working hardly to make it happen that we have good partnerships with many of the upcoming nations of the world, understanding that we are willing to cooperate with them, understanding their interest, being a good partner for them now, at this time where it is so necessary to work for a world where peace is more relevant than the ideas of war, which is the idea of the Russian leader.
And you gave another speech last year in Prague about the future of Europe. And you emphasized the need of European reforms, also in the parallel to the enlargement process. Can you tell us a little bit about what priorities the Social Democrats should have in this process?
The European Union is important for all of us, and it is necessary that we are the political leaders, the party that is working for a better Europe. We need it. In a world of, I think in the midst of the century, 10 billion people, we only will be relevant if we are a geopolitical union that is able to solve its problems, but is also able to be a strong partner to the rest of the world. And doing so, we have to work for organizing the necessary reforms for being able to take decisions. This is about the question whether we can have qualified majority decisions, for instance, in foreign policy, or when it is coming to taxes. I think this would be a step mostly needed for making the European Union stronger. But it is also important that we stick to what we said to others, especially the Western Balkan countries, which got the promise to be part of the European Union 20 years ago. It is now 20 years that in Thessaloniki this was said. And this is why we have to work intensely to make it happen now very soon. And this means that we have to work to solve problems that are between some of these nations, but also, and for making peace and stability something that works, but also supporting all in doing the necessary reforms for then getting into the European Union. And this is the same with Moldova, the same with Ukraine, and I think also with Georgia, that we are partners to them, that we make it feasible for them to take the decisions to better their countries, to organize the reforms, and then join our strong European family. I think we have a good chance that this will work if we do our task and if we support those who need support for doing so. And if we are absolutely clear, it is about our regulations, it's about the things that are important for us, the rule of law, democracy, social market economy, things like this. And this is what we have to reach in all these countries, but it is the European perspective that we are united in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chancellor. And now I would like to call on stage Rosa, another moderator from yesterday too. Welcome, Rosa.
Muy buenos días. Good morning, Prime Minister. Buenos días, queridísimo presidente. Muy buenos días, queridas compañeras, queridos compañeros que hoy nos estáis acompañando en este congreso. Es un verdadero placer poder moderar la siguiente sección. Ahora cambiamos nuestra mirada a España, pero con una clarísima visión y dimensión europea. Nuestra familia política, queridos compañeros, queridas compañeras, trabaja cada día por una Europa más justa, una Europa más cohesionada, una Europa sin lugar a duda más social, pero también una Europa más feminista. Por ello es un honor tener hoy a la mujer que lidera la lucha de los valores socialistas en el Parlamento Europeo. Demos la más cariñosa bienvenida a Iratxe García, presidenta del Grupo Socialista y Demócrata Europeo en el Parlamento Europeo. Querida Iratxe. Muchas gracias, Iratxe. Un placer tenerte hoy aquí. Y la primera pregunta que te quería realizar es en relación con el trabajo que haces cada día en el Parlamento. Por eso mi pregunta es la siguiente. The S&D Group is the progressive voice in the European Parliament. Since 2019, what have been the main progressive achievements in the Parliament? Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, all of you, dear President, dear Prime Minister, dear Commissioners, members of the Spanish government, dear colleagues. We can be very proud. We can be very proud for everything that our political family could achieve during the last difficult times, during the last year at the European level. We did it. We did it because we were united. We did it because we are stronger. We did it because the Social Democrats defend the same values that the European Union: social justice, equality, solidarity. And really, today we can say that all big transformation that during the last time could be possible at the European level was possible for our political family, was possible for all members of the European Parliament from the S&D Group. I want to thank all your work. We did it between our members of the S&D Group, with our commissioners and with our Prime Minister. Really, it was essential to defend that other Europe is possible. It's possible a greener Europe. It's possible a justice social in Europe. It's possible a feminist Europe where the more vulnerable people will be defended for people like us in the European institutions. This big transformation, the green transition, the social pillar, all rule of law transformations was leading by our political family. And we have to be proud, and we have to explain our citizens that it's possible, and they can trust on us to do best future for the next time. Thanks.
Muchísimas gracias, Iratxe. Junto a los grandes retos a los que hemos tenido que hacer frente durante estos últimos años, nos encontramos con uno que estamos viviendo en los últimos meses, muy especialmente también en España en los últimos días. Tenemos que enfrentarnos, ¿no?, y parar esa ola de extrema derecha, de ultraderecha, que se ve expresada en todas sus formas. Por eso se hacen más que nunca necesarios nuestros valores e ideas progresistas. Y mi última pregunta para ti sería, ¿cuál es tu visión de Europa para la próxima legislatura?
Si queremos defender una mejor Europa, una Europa más cercana a los ciudadanos y ciudadanas, una Europa que realmente responda a las necesidades de los que más lo necesitan, es necesario tener muy clara que la socialdemocracia tiene que poner fin a esa alianza entre la derecha y la extrema derecha. Hoy los populismos y la extrema derecha en Europa son un verdadero peligro, porque quieren atacar los valores principales de la Unión Europea. Y nos hicieron creer que no era posible. Nos hicieron creer que la socialdemocracia no podía ser una alternativa. Y estamos aquí en Málaga, en Andalucía, en España, con nuestro querido presidente Pedro Sánchez, que ha demostrado que es posible parar esa ola de populismos y de extrema derecha en Europa y en España. Porque no vamos a permitir que se dé marcha atrás a todas las grandes conquistas que la Unión Europea ha hecho durante este tiempo. Y hoy los conservadores europeos tienen que elegir en qué lugar de la historia y en qué lugar del futuro de Europa quieren estar. Nosotros, los socialdemócratas, sabemos dónde estamos, en el mismo lugar de siempre, defendiendo los valores de Europa, defendiendo a la ciudadanía, defendiendo a los más vulnerables. Sabemos dónde estamos. Y ellos tendrán que decidir. Ellos tendrán que decidir si quieren seguir construyendo con alianzas tradicionales, desde las diferencias ideológicas que por supuesto siempre hemos tenido, pero compartiendo los valores europeos, o si quieren dar la mano a esa extrema derecha cuyo único objetivo es destruir la Unión Europea. Por eso vamos a trabajar, amigos y amigas. Tenemos por delante unos meses importantes y vamos a hablar de los problemas de la gente, de lo que de verdad le importa a la gente, de cómo mejoramos la vida de las personas, que para eso estamos en política. Vamos a hablar de incrementar las pensiones, vamos a hablar de favorecer el acceso de los jóvenes a la vivienda, vamos a hablar de cómo luchamos contra la mayor lacra que tiene la Unión Europea, que es la violencia de género. Vamos a defender a las minorías y a los más vulnerables y vamos a hacerlo como lo hemos hecho siempre, orgullosos de ser socialdemócratas, porque eso significa ser defensores del proyecto europeo. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Irache. Now we move to the next speaker, and to introduce him, I call on stage Stefan Löfven. Yes.
So, dear friends, no, don't applaud me. You will applaud another guy just in a few minutes for some words. We are here to show that our family, the PES family, can win. We are here to show that we can beat the far right, that we can beat populism. We are here to show that we are the progressive force, political force in Europe that can deliver solutions to improve citizens' lives. Now, there is no better place to do that, and I think there's no better person to symbolize that fight and that success than another close friend of mine, Pedro Sanchez. We've had the pleasure working together many years. So I want you to welcome on stage the man who did it, Pedro Sanchez.
Muchas gracias, compañeros, compañeras. Muchas gracias, amigos y amigas. Bienvenidos a la maravillosa ciudad de Málaga, Andalucía. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a España. Gracias por acudir a esta importante reunión de la familia de los socialistas europeos. Permitidme que en mis primeras palabras de esta intervención traslade un abrazo en nombre de la familia socialista europea a un gran socialista, a un gran compañero, Antonio Costa. Y los compañeros socialistas portugueses saben que pueden contar con el PSOE y con todos los socialistas europeos para ganar las próximas elecciones en Portugal el 10 de marzo. So, dear comrades, I think you have already heard it through the media, but let me confirm it to you loud and clear here in Málaga right now. Spain will once again have a progressive coalition government for the next 4 years. And the government will be headed by the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party. Sí, amigos y amigas, España va a contar con 4 años más de gobierno progresista, 4 años más de avances sociales, de políticas progresistas, de estabilidad institucional y de convivencia. Gracias. Muchas gracias. Porque justo eso es lo que votó la mayoría del pueblo español el pasado 23 de julio. Y hoy, compañeros y compañeras, quiero compartir esta inmensa alegría con todas y todos vosotros y vosotras, con mis compañeros del Partido de los Socialistas Europeos, porque este triunfo no es exclusivo de los progresistas españoles, es un triunfo y una esperanza para todos los progresistas de Europa. On July, my dear friends, on July 23, as Stefan has said, we stopped the reactionary wave in Spain. And yes, on June 9, we will stop the reactionary wave throughout Europe by winning the elections to the European Parliament. Mirad, en la noche, voy a contaros una anécdota personal. En la noche del 23 de julio, el día de las elecciones generales, muchos de los compañeros y compañeras que nos acompañan, el canciller Scholz, el ex primer ministro sueco Stefan, otros también que no nos han podido acompañar, pero también han tenido ocasión de compartir a través de vídeos su presencia entre nosotros. Muchos de vosotros y vosotras me enviasteis mensajes al móvil para compartir vuestra alegría. Y en ellos volví a sentir con emoción qué significa eso que llamamos la fraternidad socialista. Es decir, vivisteis como un triunfo propio lo que acabábamos de conseguir en España. Y me vino a la memoria aquella imagen de un primer ministro sueco, Olof Palme, recaudando fondos contra la dictadura franquista en España. Recordé las manifestaciones de apoyo en París, en Lisboa, en Bruselas, en Bonn, en muchísimas capitales europeas contra las últimas ejecuciones de la dictadura franquista antes de la transición democrática española. Recordé, en definitiva, que si España cruzó la puerta de la libertad fue gracias también a la solidaridad de los líderes europeos progresistas que hicieron de la causa española su causa, de nuestra libertad su lucha y de nuestra democracia su empeño. Y fijaros, no apelo a esos recuerdos por casualidad, porque hoy mismo, como ha dicho antes Irache, en estos días la ultraderecha más nostálgica de esa cruel dictadura que fue la dictadura franquista exhibe símbolos y proclamas de un pasado oscuro para España. Un pasado que creíamos superado y cuyo eco resona hoy con la complicidad de una derecha tradicional ya parasitada desde el punto de vista de los contenidos de su propuesta política por la ultraderecha. Una derecha desnortada, que ha sido incapaz de plantar cara a la ultraderecha más reaccionaria. Y a esa derecha me gustaría dirigirme hoy, al Partido Popular, para pedirles cordura y mesura. Cordura y mesura. Y para decirles que lo que deben hacer es aceptar el resultado de las urnas, la legitimidad del gobierno que vamos a formar pronto en España, que tengan el arrojo necesario para decir no al abrazo del oso de la ultraderecha y que abandonen la senda reaccionaria por la que hoy avanzan hacia el abismo. Porque con su voto, los ciudadanos y ciudadanas españoles y españolas nos dijeron el pasado 23 de julio que España solo puede ser gobernada si se reconoce el pluralismo político de su país y también su diversidad territorial. El Partido Popular solo se entiende y solo puede acordar con una fuerza política que es la ultraderecha de Vox, con nadie más. En cambio, nosotros, el Partido Socialista Obrero Español, somos la fuerza que puede acordar con todas las otras fuerzas políticas, salvo con una que es Vox. Tanto es así, compañeros y compañeras, tanto es así que el nuevo gobierno va a salir previsiblemente adelante la próxima semana con el respaldo de 179 escaños de los 350 diputados y diputadas que conforman las Cortes Generales. Y todos ellos y todas ellas son legítimos representantes de la voluntad popular. Y con esa fuerza y con esa legitimidad que nos da el poder acordar con todos, mi compromiso con la sociedad española es claro y firme, el mismo que he tenido durante estos últimos 5 años que llevo siendo presidente del Gobierno de España. Gobernaremos para todos los españoles y españolas 4 años más, con avances sociales en favor de la mayoría social, con convivencia y con estabilidad institucional. So, dear friends, Europe is also built from memory, and when we look back, it is good to learn from the success, such as the forging of the European ideal. But more important is to learn from mistakes. And this continent knows from its own experience that when an agreement is made with the far right, a door opens that later becomes almost impossible to close. Lo hemos visto aquí en España. Después de las elecciones municipales y autonómicas el pasado 28 de mayo. Unas elecciones que fueron, compañeros y compañeras, el banco de prueba de los pactos de la derecha con la ultraderecha en España. Y hoy la ultraderecha está presente en gobiernos autonómicos de 5 comunidades autónomas, en 5 diputaciones, en 135 ayuntamientos de nuestro país, que rigen la vida de más de 12 millones de nuestros compatriotas. Y como consecuencia de ese pacto con la ultraderecha, entra ella en las instituciones y hace de ellas lo que mejor sabe, que es convertirlas en plataformas desde las que expandir sus mensajes y sus políticas de odios. Y lo estamos viendo, compañeros y compañeras, porque sus políticas son la involución, son el retroceso en derechos de mujeres, el retroceso en libertades para la comunidad LGTBI, el retroceso en la lucha contra el cambio climático, el retroceso en los derechos de los trabajadores y trabajadoras. Hasta la cultura sucumbe a sus delirios, propios de un tiempo oscuro al que ellos pertenecen. ¿Cómo no va a merecer la pena tener un gobierno progresista 4 años más en España? Y aquellas elecciones del 28 de mayo parecían la antesala, para muchísimos analistas, siempre escorados a la derecha, de lo inevitable, de tener al frente de las instituciones españolas un gobierno reaccionario del Partido Popular con Vox. Dieron el triunfo por amortizado. Fueron a las elecciones del pasado 23 de julio a cumplir un mero trámite. ¿Cuán amplia iba a ser su victoria? Se repartían ya los ministerios. Volvieron a subestimar al Partido Socialista Obrero Español. Tan seguros estaban de ganar como frustrados hoy lo están por su derrota. Porque Spain said no to going back and yes to moving forward. Spain said no to the past and yes to the future. Spain said no to darkness and going backwards and yes to move forward for more years of hope and progress. Así que triunfó la responsabilidad democrática frente a la apatía, triunfó la convivencia, triunfó la democracia y triunfó la confianza sobre quienes sembraron, hasta incluso, recordémoslo, teorías conspiranoicas sobre la cita electoral, al más puro estilo Trump. Pero sobre todo triunfó el progreso frente al retroceso. Aquel día, compañeros y compañeras, en España se libró, y esto lo digo mucho a nuestros conciudadanos en España, se libró un episodio más de una disputa ideológica global y europea que empezó hace décadas y que ahora, por desgracia, se está recrudeciendo. Una disputa entre dos formas de ver el mundo, entre fuerzas que pretenden la involución, fuerzas que pretenden la banalización de las causas justas, como es la de la igualdad real y efectiva entre hombres y mujeres, que es una causa que supera las diferencias ideológicas porque entran de lleno en los derechos humanos. Y las fuerzas progresistas, que asumimos la responsabilidad de afrontar con justicia social las grandes revoluciones, las grandes transformaciones y mirar al futuro con ambición y optimismo. En la última década, compañeros y compañeras, el apoyo electoral a fuerzas de ultraderecha en nuestro continente se ha duplicado. Sus partidos forman parte hoy de 5 gobiernos nacionales y de cientos de gobiernos regionales y municipales a lo largo y ancho de la Unión Europea. Y el patrón siempre es el mismo. La derecha tradicional abdica, abraza las formas, los discursos y las políticas de la ultraderecha. Y el problema no es que una derecha parasite o colonice a la otra. El problema es quién coloniza y parasita a quién. Y esta es la reflexión que deberían abordar cuanto antes los partidos conservadores tradicionales en todo el continente. Porque la ola reaccionaria parecía imparable. Y la siguiente en caer en consecuencia era España el pasado 23 de julio, una pieza importante en el tablero europeo, porque somos la 4ª economía europea y un símbolo también en muchísimos ámbitos de conquistas sociales, de nuevos derechos, de nuevas libertades. Y era aquí en España donde las fuerzas reaccionarias podían cobrarse una pieza de enorme valor también para el futuro de Europa. Y ha sido aquí, afortunadamente para España y para Europa, donde fracasaron el pasado 23 de julio. Fuimos el dique de contención en el que se estrelló esa ola reaccionaria y ahora se trata de repetirlo el próximo 9 de julio en las elecciones europeas. Y ese día está en juego el futuro de la Unión Europea. En esencia, está en juego qué queremos que sea Europa. Una Europa comprometida o no con la lucha contra el cambio climático, que haga de la transición ecológica una gran oportunidad para avanzar, o una Europa que abrace, como estamos viendo por parte de la ultraderecha, el negacionismo de la ciencia o los mercaderes de la duda sobre el calentamiento global. Una Europa que defienda las conquistas de las mujeres, la causa feminista, o una Europa que valide intolerables recortes en derechos y en libertades sexuales y reproductivas para las mujeres. Una Europa que proteja a los trabajadores y trabajadoras ante retos descomunales como lo es también la inteligencia artificial o cuando llegan las turbulencias como hemos tenido durante estos últimos 4 años con la crisis de la COVID y también las consecuencias económicas de la guerra, o una Europa servil ante los poderosos y arrogante con la gente más pudiente. Yo creo, compañeros y compañeras, en definitiva, que necesitamos una Europa que sea faro de libertad, de progreso, de derechos humanos en el mundo, o una Europa convertida en trinchera de su propia decadencia. Y esta es la disyuntiva a la que nos vamos a enfrentar las próximas elecciones en el mes de junio a nivel europeo. ¿Queremos que Europa sea un faro o una trinchera? ¿Qué quiere ser Europa? ¿Quiere ser un proyecto inspirador para el mundo? La prueba viviente de que a través de la cooperación y no de los antagonismos nacionales se puede construir prosperidad. Expandir su relato de éxito al mundo necesitado hoy más que nunca de ejemplos de esperanza como lo puede ser la Unión Europea. My dear friends, for decades socialists have been architects of that social, open and supportive Europe. We put all our intelligence, we put all our minds at the service of a united Europe. Now, dear comrades, it is not just about putting our mind, it is about putting our hearts at the service of the European ideal, because there is no one else willing to do it in this decisive hour. It is our duty to raise that blue banner as the homeland of reason, science, culture, human rights and brotherhood of the people in this continent. The French writer Albert Camus said once, "My generation learned that you can be right and be defeated. Now, it is not enough to be right. We have to win. We have to win. And we have to win We have to win not for us, who have lived this united and peaceful Europe, but for our children, for the future generations. That is why I'm asking you to be more than ever what we have always been, humanists, internationalists, and democrats. That is the meaning of being socialist. Y ese es el camino, compañeros y compañeras, de los gobiernos socialistas en todo el continente. Podéis contar con España en esa tarea, esta España abierta y europeísta, ecologista, feminista, tolerante, solidaria, que va a ser baluarte de esta patria común que llamamos Europa. Seremos viento en las velas del progreso y la convivencia junto con el resto de gobiernos progresistas en Europa. Seremos un motor de propuestas para avanzar, siempre para avanzar hacia una Europa más verde, más justa, más social. Una Europa que se atreva a innovar y a competir. Una Europa que lidera siendo fiel a su modelo social. Una Europa más autónoma que se reindustrializa para reducir sus vulnerabilidades, pero que no se cierra en sí misma ni se acobarda tampoco a la hora de competir fuera de ella. En ningún sitio, compañeros y compañeras, está escrito que para liderar, innovar y crecer el único camino sea el de las renuncias, los recortes y los sacrificios de nuestro modelo de bienestar. Esa lección creo que causó muchísimo dolor en la última década con la crisis financiera y la respuesta neoliberal que se dio y alejó a mucha gente del ideal europeo. Creo que en estos años de gobierno de coalición progresista, al menos en nuestra parte, en España, hemos demostrado que se puede crear empleo sin recortar derechos laborales, que se puede proteger a la gente que más lo necesita desde lo público, sin imponer sacrificios a la clase media y a la clase trabajadora. Hemos demostrado que pudimos subir el salario mínimo interprofesional, garantizar las pensiones dignas y también sin cuestionar con ello la solidez de la economía. Hemos hecho pedazos el relato de la respuesta neoliberal, porque hoy España crece, protege, pero también reduce su deuda pública y su déficit público mientras garantiza becas, tiene más inversión educativa, hay más apoyo a la ciencia y a la innovación, mientras lideramos las proyecciones económicas y controlamos la inflación. Tenemos 21 millones de personas trabajando y cotizando hoy en España, casi 10 millones de mujeres, récord histórico en nuestro país. Reducimos la brecha salarial entre hombres y mujeres y también el índice de desigualdad y de precariedad laboral tras una pandemia como la que hemos sufrido en estos últimos años. En definitiva, España avanza con paso firme, decidido, y lo va a seguir haciendo en los próximos años sobre la base de un acuerdo para formar un nuevo gobierno de coalición progresista. Un acuerdo que va a caminar hacia el pleno empleo, a converger en poder adquisitivo con los países de nuestro entorno. Un acuerdo para fortalecer el estado del bienestar, un acuerdo para materializar el derecho constitucional a una vivienda digna, que sé que es uno de los principales problemas de los jóvenes en nuestro país, y convertirlo en el quinto pilar del estado del bienestar. Un acuerdo para luchar contra la emergencia climática y convertirla en una gran oportunidad para liderar y para hacer avanzar a España y a Europa hacia una economía verde y digital. Un acuerdo para consolidar la diversidad territorial de España y un espacio para el reencuentro y para la convivencia. Un acuerdo, compañeros y compañeras, para seguir haciendo de España lo que es una referencia mundial en feminismo. Compañeros y compañeras, termino y quiero hacerlo con una breve reflexión a nuestros invitados. Muchos españoles y españolas, compañeros y compañeras del Partido Socialista, lo saben bien porque lo vivieron en sus carnes, pero hay otros muchos que hoy nos acompañan aquí en Málaga que desconocen nuestra historia más reciente. Pero fijaros, España, sin duda alguna, es un país formidable. Málaga y Andalucía son la viva prueba de lo maravilloso que es nuestro país. Pero comenzaba mi intervención recordando un tiempo no tan lejano de dictadura y ausencia de libertades. Para aquellos que venís de fuera, quiero compartir con vosotros que nuestro país, España, no reconoció hasta 1974 el derecho de las mujeres a poseer bienes sin la autorización de un hombre. Hace muy poco tiempo, esa España impedía a las mujeres ser dueñas de su cuerpo y de su libertad sexual. Fuimos el penúltimo país en Europa en legalizar el divorcio. La homosexualidad estaba penalizada hasta casi los finales o el final de la década de los 70. En 1978, que es el año de la aprobación de la Constitución española, el abandono escolar alcanzaba al 70% y solo 1 de cada 6 españoles tenía educación superior. En 1970. La España de hoy es un referente de derechos de las mujeres y de la comunidad LGTBI. Ha mejorado sus competencias formativas a un ritmo inédito en Europa. Ya no lideramos digamos, la política energética en la dependencia de los combustibles fósiles, sino que lo lideramos en el despliegue de las energías renovables. Y contamos hoy con una extraordinaria sanidad pública, gracias a la cual contamos con una de las mayores esperanzas de vida del mundo. España venía de tan lejos, de tan atrás, que tuvo que correr el doble de rápido para llegar donde siempre quisimos, que es al corazón de Europa, que es lo mismo que decir al corazón de los derechos y libertades que generaciones enteras de españoles siempre anhelaron. Si hoy España es un referente en derechos y en libertades, ese es mérito de la sociedad española. Una sociedad que es abierta, que es tolerante, que abrazó con convicción la democracia y el ideal europeo, que decidió avanzar en lugar de retroceder y que hoy más que nunca es dueña de su porvenir y no esclava de su pasado. Hoy celebramos una efeméride. Hoy es 11 de noviembre. En muchos países de Europa se recuerda el final de la Primera Guerra Mundial, un conflicto que devastó nuestro continente. Una guerra bárbara, brutal, contra la que se alzó la voz valiente de socialistas silenciados por el odio, como por ejemplo Jean Jaurès. Aquella guerra lejana que debía ser la última de todas las guerras, alumbró un nuevo orden multilateral que debía evitar la repetición de esa gran tragedia. La historia da cuenta de cuán frágil fue aquella conquista. Lo digo porque la invasión de Ucrania vuelve a acreditar esa fragilidad. También, desgraciadamente, la guerra entre Israel y el terrorismo de Hamás. Un conflicto en el que la población civil necesita de la protección mientras avanzamos en el camino hacia la paz, que solo puede basarse en los principios sólidos de la comunidad internacional. Por eso, compañeros y compañeras, condenamos el terrorismo de Hamás, exigimos la liberación de los rehenes sin ningún tipo de condición. Por eso reivindicamos un alto el fuego humanitario y por eso también sabemos que la solución definitiva vendrá de la mano del reconocimiento del Estado palestino y de la convivencia de los dos Estados, Israel y Palestina, en paz y en seguridad. Hoy más que nunca hay que volver a reivindicar el internacionalismo como la savia que alimenta las venas de la socialdemocracia. Y en un mundo de egoísmos nacionales crecientes, el valor del proyecto europeo es un faro de esperanza en un mundo lleno de amenazas. Un mundo en el que la esencia del combate que afrontamos solo ofrece una clara disyuntiva: o avanzamos o retrocedemos. Hoy la amenaza de ese retroceso es real. Así que, compañeros y compañeras, seamos nosotros, socialistas europeos, garantes del progreso y la valentía de avanzar, asumamos ese deber con lealtad a nuestros principios, con fidelidad a nuestras convicciones, como socialistas, pero sobre todo como demócratas. Muchísimas gracias.
And from one great victory, we move to our next hope. The next speaker, you know him very well, is a man who has shown leadership with the European Green Deal, making Europe more social and more green. Now, this man is putting all his efforts to take the Netherlands to a different track, to change the society into a more fair and sustainable one, and to build back trust with respect for all. He has been traveling all across the Netherlands to listen and to speak to the people. And we are very pleased that he took the time to have his flash visit with all our leaders of the European Socialist and Progressive parties, because he knows how essential the European cooperation is to Europe and also to the Netherlands. Please welcome Frans Timmermans.
Buenos días, compañeras, compañeros. I don't know about you, but I feel so inspired by Pedro's speech. And after having listened to Pedro, I have to say, there is nothing we cannot do. There is no goal we cannot achieve. There is no victory we cannot win. We will follow his lead in defining what is necessary for Europe, but most of all, we will follow his lead in defining our values, in fighting for those values, in showing to Europeans that we have their backs. And I think in this day and age, with so many insecurities, global insecurities, local insecurities, it is very easy for people to get lost in those insecurities, to only think about tomorrow and their own problems. But there is an incredible pool of solidarity available to people in all of our societies. It is our task to wake up that pool of solidarity and to put it to good use for the whole of society. What we have seen, and Pedro has described it so well, that for some people, their insecurities make them vulnerable for the call of the extreme right. The extreme right pretending they have all the solutions as long as they can find the scapegoats they can blame for things not working well. And wherever we see in Europe the extreme right becoming part of the government or shadowing a government, such as in Sweden and in Finland, we very quickly see that they gobble up the center-right. They gobble up the center-right, and the center-right becomes totally infected, as Pedro said, by the extreme right. Look at what happened to this grand old party, the Republicans in the United States. They were gobbled up by the extremists. And this is happening everywhere. So the thought in the center-right, we can encapsulate the extreme right and then neutralize them, has been false and has not worked anywhere in any country where it has been tried. And we will never ever, under any condition, form governments with the extreme right. This is not acceptable under any condition. And I have to say that I believe in what Elie Wiesel once said, that the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. And what threatens our societies today is the surge of indifference. Because those who propagate hate, they're always the minority. But they can become successful if the majority remains indifferent to our plights. And today, as a feminist, I say to the women in Europe, we will never be indifferent when they try to take away your rights. We will be next to you, we will be in alliance with you, because we know that the only way we can have successful feminist policies if there is an alliance between women and men who understand that we need equality. We also know that we need to fight for the position of peoples of the LGBTIQ community because they are under pressure, and I really want to assert and to signal the plight of the trans people in Europe who are so much under pressure. We tell them, we see you, we hold your hands, we're next to you, and we will protect you at any cost. This is our duty. The Green Deal was mentioned several times. And let me just say what the essence of the Green Deal is. The essence of the Green Deal is that we organize Europe's future in such a way that our continent becomes sustainable, but especially becomes more just. The Green Deal is a machine to create the jobs of the future, is a machine to give job security to people who today are not sure they will have a job in the future, is a machine to say to future generations, we're not only thinking about ourselves, we want to be good ancestors. We want to leave you a planet that is livable, a planet with decent jobs, a planet where Europe is still the place all the world wants to see and come. This is our duty, our holy duty. In 150 years of socialism, the core issue for us has always been all forms of emancipation. How do we draw people out of poverty? How do we give people the prospect of better lives? And today, my friends, this is as necessary as ever, because many people in Europe fear the future, and people who fear the future turn to solutions that will not work. Our task is to take away the fear for the future by simply showing that if we have an energy transition, we will make sure that the people who can't afford to be part of it will be supported in making that energy transition. We will make sure that social housing will become energy efficient, that solar panels are not just for the rich, that electric mobility is for everyone. That makes our houses better insulated, better livable, a better climate, but especially less expenditure on energy. That is doing something for people's pockets. And let's not forget that at the end of the day, in the last 20 years, where neoliberalism ran rampant in many of our countries, if you compare the improvement in society, people who work hardly had any improvement. People who can live off their capital did extremely well. There is an inherent injustice in this. We need, also on the European level, to fundamentally reform our tax system so that labor is taxed much less and capital is taxed much more. And don't let them fool you by telling you that higher wages lead to higher inflation. The inflation caused in the last couple of years was mainly caused by huge profits in the economy, not by labor costs. Never let them tell you higher labor costs would hurt the economy. It's on the contrary. And by the way, and let me end on this, just give it a bit of thought. If you tax somebody who's a millionaire a bit more, if you put a bit more tax on the profits in the biggest companies, does that change the lives in any way of the people who have profit from that they pay more into society? Do they travel less? Do they buy less? Do they live other lives? No. But if on minimum wage you increase people's income, even with a little bit, that changes their lives. They can start spending, they can make better choices, they can make sure their kids have new shoes, they can make sure they can take care of their health care, they can make sure they have a better prospect for their future lives. So don't listen to those who say you can't tax the rich. It's about time they paid their share in our society. And I am inspired by what has happened in Poland, deeply inspired. I'm inspired by a nation that, although the press was almost completely controlled, although the election was free but in no ways fair, still, people said, nope, we don't want to go down that road. We want to be a European nation, we want to be a democratic nation, we want courts to be independent, we want the rule of law, we want people to have individual freedoms, and these need to be protected. And you know who did that? Young people and women. We have young people and women to thank for this turn of history. And how do we make sure that young people and women understand that their future is our biggest concern? By showing it clearly, by showing that we take the climate crisis seriously and that we take steps to face that crisis now, today, tomorrow, every day, as the Spanish government under Pedro Sanchez has been doing for years. That is how we repay the solidarity of our kids. And how do we repay the solidarity for women? By being feminists, by punishing feminicide much harder than we do today, by making sure that gender-based violence is removed from our society, by making sure that women have equal pay, equal opportunities, by making sure that family matters are shared by men and women, and by making sure that all our children have loving families, regardless of the fact whether the parents are a man and a woman, 2 men or 2 women. Every kid deserves a family with loving parents, and their gender is no concern to authorities. Their gender is no concern to anybody but themselves. I find it horrible to hear that in Italy, a mother can be stricken from the register simply because the other parent is also a mother. This is unacceptable to us, and we will fight against this until our last breath. So yes, our fight is about values, our fight is about equality, and our fight is basically always been and will always be about solidarity. Thank you very, very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Franz. Everyone here thinks that it's clear the European progressive family is fully behind you. Dear Congress, dear friends, compañeras y compañeros, it is very clear that it is us, our political family, that is pushing from every corner for a better world. Therefore, we take you now from the Netherlands right to the other corner of Europe, as we are joined by a fearless fighter for democracy. I'm talking about the real winner of the presidential elections in Belarus, the voice of the Belarusian citizens who choose democracy and freedom over Ruski Mir, the Russian order. After falsified elections, sentenced to 15 years of imprisonment by the Lukashenko regime, she is the person who represents hundreds of thousands, millions of citizens repeating, "Long live Belarus." It is my pleasure to welcome the President-elect of Belarus, Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya.
So, dear Chairman Levin, dear Pedro Sanchez, dear delegates of PES Congress, friends of democracy and friends of free Belarus, I would like to start today by congratulating the Belarusian Social Democrats with 120 years anniversary. Belarusian Social Democrats were the main power behind Belarusian independence declared than a century ago. Then they were fighting against tyranny and Russian dominance, and they bravely do today. In this hall, we have representatives of Belarusian Social Democrats of Gramada and Narodnaya Gramada. Despite political crackdown and arrests of their leaders, these courageous people are not giving up and continue to fight for free Belarus. So let's give them a round of applause. I'm confident that one day Belarusian Social Democrats, along with other political parties from Belarus, will be debating in the European Parliament. I'm confident that one day my country will become a member of free family of European nations. Because without Belarus, Ukraine or Moldova, the European project will be never finished. European Union from Malaga to Minsk, from Lisbon to Tbilisi. Today it might seem like a distant dream, but for us it's not just a dream, it is the goal. Our goal is to build a country where the government serves the people, but not the vice versa. This is why we look up to Europe, where social rights are guaranteed, not just declared. Our goal is to return Belarus to democracy, because under tyranny there are no independent trade unions, no climate awareness, no LGBTQ rights, no gender equality, and of course, no elections. And our goal is to wrest Belarus from Russian claws. We lived for too long in the shadow of Russia, but not anymore. Belarus is not Russia. Belarus is Europe. Dear friends, the path to democracy might be difficult, but it's only the right one. And we can't fight and we can't win this fight alone. We need allies and champions of free Belarus, and many of them are among us. Champions like Prime Minister Sanchez, Minister Jose Alvarez, and Secretary Anna Halul. You stopped collaborating with the illegitimate regime and extended your hands to Belarusian freedom fighters. Thank you. Champions like Joseph Olekas, who made Belarus one of the main topics in the European Parliament. Your resolution on Belarus sent a clear message to the regime that there will not be impunity. Every perpetrator will be brought to justice. Thank you. Champions like Mr. David Lemmy and Mr. Joe Cody-Rourke, who keep Belarus on the UK's agenda. Thank you as well. Champions like Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who was one of the first German politicians I met back in 2020. And champions like Franz Timmermans, who visited me in Vilnius in the very beginning of my political path and inspired me to continue my fight, whatever it takes. Thank you so much, Franz. And I invite each of you in this hall to become champions. Dear friends, in 2020, PES launched the campaign We Hear You, Belarus. And today, we want to hear from Europe again. Tomorrow, November 12th, join the International Day of Solidarity with Belarus. Because as we speak here, thousands are behind bars. Among them, 4,000 trade union leaders and social democrats. And they must hear that we will not stop fighting until everyone is free. And finally, let's help Ukraine to win this war. Victory of Ukraine will be ultimate defeat of Putin and Lukashenko. You know, many Belarusians fight for Ukrainian freedom as we speak now. Many of them gave their lives in this fight because we, Belarusians, understand that it is not just their fight, it is our common fight for freedom. Thank you. Живи Беларусь!
Queridos amigos, queridas amigas, es el momento de escuchar y continuar con el Congreso y de escuchar a nuestro siguiente invitado. Lamentablemente no puede estar hoy aquí con nosotros, pero sí nos ha enviado un mensaje. Él es una voz fuerte en Europa que lucha cada día por una Europa más fuerte y un mundo mejor y en paz. Es además una verdadera referencia para el Partido Socialista y para todos los europeos. Es un placer presentarle este videomensaje del alto representante Josep Borrell.
Compañeros y compañeras, quiero felicitar a Stefan por su reelección como presidente de nuestro partido y daros las gracias por dejarme compartir con vosotros alguna reflexión sobre la política exterior de Europa en este momento y sus principales problemas. Problemas no faltan. Este fin de año supone al menos una doble prueba para Europa. Primero en Ucrania, donde la perspectiva de una victoria sobre Rusia no es inmediata, y donde los europeos, que tenemos los medios necesarios para ello, tenemos que estar dispuestos política y materialmente a ayudar a Ucrania, a seguirla ayudando e incluso a tomar el relevo de Estados Unidos y, como quizá sea probable, su apoyo disminuye. Y sobre Gaza, donde está ocurriendo una tragedia humanitaria y sobre la cual Europa ha llevado su división a las Naciones Unidas. Lo que está ocurriendo en Gaza es la consecuencia de un fallo político y moral de la comunidad internacional que no ha hecho todo lo que debía, 30 años después de los acuerdos de Oslo, 30 años, para hacer una realidad la solución de los dos estados. Y hoy el número de colonos israelíes en los territorios ocupados, porque sí, así se llaman, territorios ocupados, es 4 veces más grande que hace 30 años. El territorio palestino se ha dividido en un archipiélago de zonas no conectadas entre ellas, lo cual hace ciertamente mucho más difícil llevar a la práctica la solución de los dos estados, que hemos estado repitiendo una y otra vez que era la solución. En Europa somos la zona más próxima a la mayoría de los grandes desequilibrios del mundo. Podemos decir que estamos en el ojo de un huracán, ya sean guerras, conflictos, desigualdades, superpoblación y no en casa, sino en el entorno inmediato, y obviamente migraciones, que son la consecuencia de la inestabilidad, de la desigualdad, de la superpoblación de muchos países de nuestro entorno, particularmente en África. Y todo eso le produce miedo a la sociedad europea. Temor. Y el miedo no es un buen consejero. Pero esta es la dura realidad que tendremos que asumir en vísperas de las próximas elecciones europeas, de cuya importancia no hace falta que os hable. Sí, el fuego arde en Ucrania, en la frontera este de Europa, desde hace más de 1 año y medio, mucho más tiempo del que pensaba Putin, que creía que en 2 semanas estaría en Kiev e implantaría allí un régimen títere como el de Bielorrusia. Este conflicto está durando gracias a la resistencia de Ucrania y al apoyo que le hemos prestado, sin el cual Ucrania no hubiera podido defenderse. Y sí, Europa ha estado a la altura de sus responsabilidades. Europa ha apoyado a Ucrania económica y militarmente, más incluso que Estados Unidos. Y sobre todo Ucrania ya es un país candidato a ser miembro de la Unión, en posición de obtener sólidas garantías de seguridad. No somos una alianza militar. Y por lo tanto la garantía de seguridad más grande que le podemos dar a Ucrania es hacerla miembro de la familia europea. Pero para eso debemos permanecer unidos y prepararnos para un conflicto más largo del que Rusia pensó y que nunca Rusia podrá ganar, pero cuyo final puede retrasar. Porque el régimen de Putin se ha vuelto adicto a la guerra, necesita la guerra. La guerra es un instrumento de su supervivencia política frente a una población que también sufre pero que está amordazada y ante la perspectiva de unas elecciones estadounidenses que podrían, él piensa y espera, afectar negativamente al apoyo de Estados Unidos a Ucrania. Cree que las democracias son débiles y vacilarán y no podemos darle la razón. Tenemos que seguir apoyando a Ucrania. Luego está, por supuesto, la emergencia, la revuelta, la reivindicación, llamémosle como queramos, de eso que nos guste o no, se llama el sur global, un conjunto heterogéneo de países que son cada vez más reticentes a apoyarnos en la cuestión de Ucrania porque consideran que allí hay un doble lenguaje, un doble rasero, un doble estándar, el famoso double standard por parte de Europa a la vista de lo que está ocurriendo en Gaza y nuestra reacción. Y eso naturalmente me lleva a hablar del conflicto palestino-israelí, que es la gran tragedia de nuestro tiempo, de ahora, para los israelitas y los palestinos, y también para Europa, pero los muertos los han puesto y los están poniendo ellos. Está claro que debemos apoyar a Israel frente a los ataques terroristas que ha sufrido, que nada justifica. Está claro que debemos rechazarlos y condenarlos, lo hemos hecho y hay que hacerlo todas las veces que haga falta, pero también debe estar claro que, como dice el presidente Obama en un texto inspirador, la forma en la que Israel se defienda importa, claro que importa. Debe respetar la ley internacional humanitaria y tratar de minimizar las víctimas civiles. Y debemos decir que cortar el agua y los alimentos y la electricidad y los combustibles a toda una población civil asediada no es aceptable. Porque una estrategia que ignore los costes humanos al final no va a funcionar y va a hacer imposible la paz. Y la paz es la mejor y quizá la única garantía de seguridad para Israel. Y debe ser posible para gente progresista como nosotros defender con igual énfasis los derechos de los palestinos a su libertad, a su seguridad y a su dignidad, tanto como el de los israelitas. Y debe ser posible criticar al gobierno de Israel, sin ser por ello acusado de antisemita. Ahora debemos trabajar para conseguir una desescalada inmediata y para ello hay que garantizar que el flujo de ayuda humanitaria entre y llegue a las personas que las necesitan, porque camiones de la frontera haciendo cola hay demasiados y dinero no falta. Lo que hace falta es que puedan entrar. Corredores de acceso. Y naturalmente también que la Cruz Roja Internacional pueda entrar, acceder a los rehenes en poder Hamás, que Hamás tiene el imperativo de liberar. Lograr pausas humanitarias para limitar el sufrimiento de las poblaciones civiles, una, varias, alto el fuego, cesación de hostilidades, llámenle como quieran, y también para hacer posible que los rehenes israelíes sean liberados, porque todas las vidas importan. Y es obscena la competencia entre el número de víctimas, pero no podemos dejar de ser sensibles a que en Gaza ya son más de 10.000, la mitad de las cuales son niños. Y una vez consolidadas las treguas humanitarias, lo que evidentemente dista mucho de ser el caso por el momento, tendremos que pasar de la ayuda a la política, de la ayuda a la acción política. Y la inmediata transición política tendrá que basarse, pienso yo, al menos en 3 principios. Son de mi cosecha, lo habrá que ver lo que acordamos en la Unión Europea, pero creo que hay 3 noes y 3 síes. No al regreso de Hamás a Gaza. Yo estuve en Gaza en el 2008, después de los primeros grandes bombardeos, y desde entonces ha habido al menos 3 veces más. Hamás no puede regresar a Gaza. No a la amputación del territorio de Gaza o a su reocupación por Israel. No a la disociación de la solución para Gaza del resto del problema palestino en su conjunto. Es lo que nos dicen los amigos árabes cuando nos dicen no queremos hablar del día después, porque eso distrae la atención del problema de fondo, que es la solución al problema palestino en su conjunto. Sí a la instalación de una autoridad palestina provisional en Gaza, en términos de referencia y legitimidad definidos por una resolución unánime y no ambigua del Consejo de Seguridad y garantizados por este. Podemos pensar en una solución renovable que incentive a los 2 bandos a llegar a un acuerdo, primero para Gaza, pero después también para Cisjordania. Sí a una mayor implicación de los Estados árabes. En algunos de ellos, tanto Israel como la autoridad palestina pueden confiar para una gestión provisional de Gaza. Y sí a una mayor implicación de la Unión Europea en la región, en particular sobre cómo construir un Estado palestino, no solo cómo reconstruir Gaza, esto ya lo hemos hecho varias veces, sino cómo construir un Estado palestino pacífico, capaz de restaurar la dignidad de los palestinos y de sellar la paz con Israel. Este tiene que ser nuestro objetivo y nuestro compromiso. De lo contrario, entraremos en una espiral de violencia y repetidamente iremos de funeral en funeral y nuestra seguridad será cada vez más amenazada. Y por eso los europeos, por interés propio, pero también por nuestra responsabilidad moral y política, hemos de comprometernos más con la paz entre Israel y Palestina, que puede ser un cáncer que se metastice en el conjunto del mundo y cree una nueva situación de grave inestabilidad. Muchas gracias por vuestra atención.
Rosa,
bueno, sí. Continuamos el Congreso y vamos a dar paso al último panel, al panel de clausura de este Congreso, y para ello me gustaría llamar a los siguientes ponentes. I call on the stage José Manuel Álvarez, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation, Magdalena Andersson, Leader of SAP Sweden, Lars Klimberg, Co-Leader of SAPT Germany, and David Lamy, Shadow Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs. Welcome to everyone. Thank you to everyone, and I'm going to ask to my Ministro, buenos días, querido José Manuel. Mi primera pregunta, tras escuchar además al alto representante, es tras esa afirmación clara y expresión que habéis expresado de, junto al alto representante, realizar en España, que acoge España, una conferencia internacional de paz para Oriente Medio, ¿qué papel puede y debe desempeñar la Unión Europea para lograr una verdadera paz duradera en Oriente Medio y en las negociaciones? Muchas gracias.
La Unión Europea tiene una gran responsabilidad en estos momentos en Oriente Medio con respecto a nuestros amigos y socios en el mundo árabe y también con respecto a Israel, porque la Unión Europea es la única que puede levantar bien alta la bandera de la paz. Cada vez que hay violencia en Oriente Medio, y en esta ocasión, donde, por supuesto, la Unión Europea ha expresado una condena clara al ataque terrorista de Hamás, parece que todos nos resignamos a que la violencia es algo consustancial a la vida de Oriente Medio, a la vida de los civiles palestinos. Y la Unión Europea es la que debe de alzar su voz para decir que esta vez tiene que ser la última vez. Y para eso todos sabemos lo que tenemos que hacer. La receta está muy clara y ha sido aceptada ya en Oslo hace muchas décadas por israelíes y palestinos. Y esa receta pasa por el reconocimiento del Estado de Palestina y por la existencia de dos estados, un Estado de Palestina y un Estado de Israel, que se reconocen mutuamente, que coexisten pacíficamente y que garantizan la seguridad del otro. Ese es el objetivo de esa conferencia de paz. Ese es el objetivo también que desde el Gobierno de España pidamos un alto el fuego humanitario, un respeto escrupuloso al derecho internacional humanitario que protege a los civiles y la liberación inmediata e incondicional de todos los rehenes. Será bueno, por supuesto, para los civiles palestinos, será bueno para el futuro y la seguridad de Israel, será bueno para la estabilidad de Oriente Medio, será bueno para la paz mundial y será bueno también para la relación euroárabe y euromediterránea.
Muchas gracias, ministro.
Thank you, Minister. Lars, the SPD is a historically renowned internationalist party with strong social democratic values. What are the SPD's main priorities at European and international level facing the challenges of these days?
Thanks for the question, and comrades, I think it's a very strong signal from this Congress that we have a common resolution towards the situation in Israel and solidarity with Israel to give a clear signal about the terror attacks of Hamas, and also to give a clear signal to the civil society in Gaza that we see them, that we want their help, and that we want the pauses for humanitarian aid. But when you ask what is the big aim for Europe, I think the first thing is that we should consider Europe to become a strong international actor. I think this is very important, and this must be the aim of the social democratic family, that Europe is a strong actor on the international level. We hope every day that Joe Biden will win the next US election, but we do not know what will happen. We do not know what will happen next year in the United States, and for that it's so important that the next European Commission has a strong agenda on the field of international politics. And for that, I think the biggest topic is that we make clear every day that Russia will not win this war against Ukraine, that we are strong on the side of Ukraine. And this is one of the biggest topics in Europe and with European politics. That means we have to spend more on defense. That means we have to spend more on military budget, but it also means that we have to see on the diplomatic field. It's not military strains against diplomatic strains, it's both, and we need it on the European level. And let me just quickly add 2 points. We need the enlargement process. Europe has to become a geopolitical actor, and I'm very happy that we say yes to Ukraine, and we say yes to Moldova, but we also have to say yes to the Balkans, and I think it's very important that we have this geopolitical strategy. And the next thing is we have to see other countries. We have to build strategic partnerships to our friends in Asia, in Africa, and Latin America. When I went to Brazil and Chile last year and I talked to our friends there, they told me, China is here, Russia is here, but where are our European friends? And that means we have to become much more stronger in building strategic partnerships with all our friends all over the world.
Thank you, Lars. Dear Magdalena, I'm going to speak in English, sorry, don't worry. Okay. We are living through geopolitical upheaval, but also economy uncertainty with high inflation and with growth prospect. How can Social Democrats address ordinary people's economic reality and ensure it's not lost in the political debate?
Thank you very much. I mean, it's clear that we are living in difficult times in many respects. I mean, there is a war going on in Europe, and it's absolutely central for our continent and our future that we cannot let Russia win this war. And now, the last month, we also have a war going on in Gaza with a terrible situation for the hostages and for civilians in Gaza. And there are forces in Europe that also wants to use this situation to increase tensions here in Europe. At the same time, we do have an economic situation where households are struggling with the cost of living crisis. High prices on food, on fuel, on gas, on mortgages. We have increased employment and at the same time unemployment, and at the same time increased migration. And at the same time, social media that make profits out of promoting polarizing messages in their algorithm. That makes us angry and afraid. All these things together is a toxic cocktail where right-wing populism can flourish. And also in many of our European countries, there are strong far-right authoritarian parties and movements that already are on the rise. So from this perspective, I think we are in a decisive moment for social democracy and progressives in Europe. And we have to fight every day until the European elections in June. And we have to fight it on our arena to make life better for ordinary people, for better housing, better education, good paying jobs, for secure communities, and actually for a Europe where all our citizens, no matter background, education, what parents we have, if we are a boy or a girl, a man or a woman, that we have the possibility to dream big dreams, to educate ourselves, to develop, to be all that we can be. Because in a Europe, when each and every one of us have this possibility, that will also be a Europe that can prosper and be successful.
David, good to see you here too. So ahead of the next general elections in the UK, what is Labour's vision for UK position in the world?
This has been a very difficult time for the UK because we've had 3 prime ministers in a very short space of time. We had the terrible Boris Johnson that was partying in number 10. We had Liz Truss that broke our economy. And now we've got a very weak Rishi Sunak. So it is my sincere hope that the British people choose Keir Starmer as our new leader at the general election next year. And our vision is to reconnect the United Kingdom with the global community once again. You will never, ever find a Labour Prime Minister describe the European Union as our enemies. They are our friends, and we can't wait to rebuild relations once again. It was a mistake for this government to cut our aid budget, to hoard our vaccine, and we want to rebuild bridges with the global south once again. And of course, I'm very conscious that we are here at this time of war in Europe. We will stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of Ukraine in their fight, and they must win. And at this terrible moment in the Middle East, yes, we stand against the horrendous terrorism that we saw on October the 7th, and we support Israel's right to defend itself. But our party has always been dedicated to the just cause that is the Palestinian people, and we want to see that two-state recognition, and we want to work with others to see the recognition of the Palestinian state in the years ahead. So it is our responsibility to reconnect the UK with the global community, and I hope and pray that we get the privilege to serve once again in May or October, I suspect, next year. Thank you.
David. Mr. Alvarez, so the Spanish presidency of the European Council has put forward very ambitious proposals, also for the renewed relationships with Latin America. What do you see as Spain's biggest accomplishments in the international sphere during the presidency you just served?
Started our presidency thinking that since the war of aggression of Russia to Ukraine, Europe could not stay anymore thinking about itself. We needed friends, partners, the same friends and partners that share our values in the world. And that if we wanted to tackle the global changes, starting by the fight of climate change, we needed to work with those that share the same concern, the same values. And Latin America and the Caribbean appear very high in the agenda, not only because they share our languages, not only because a part of the population in Latin America has European origins and more Latino people live in our countries, but because they share our values. They believe in multilateralism, they believe in peace, they believe in United Nations, in human rights, in the fight against climate change. So very soon in our presidency, we did, after 8 years, a summit, EU, Latin America and the Caribbean, EU-CELAC. And this is before and after the Spanish presidency. President Lula of Brazil, leaving that summit, said, "I have never seen Europe to care so much for Latin America as during that summit." We have a structure, a new dialogue, and every 2 years there will be a summit. We have mobilized 45,000 million euros for investment in Latin America, and we are fostering agreements as the Mercosur agreement, that is the last chance to make sure that Brazil and the rest of Mercosur will be under the Paris Agreement. But of course, we are also thinking about our near partners, and they are the Balkans, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia. Very recently, we have seen the opinion of the Commission giving them green light to start the discussion for enlargement. This is going to be a very important part of the final stage of our presidency. And being a Mediterranean country and given the situation in the Middle East, to renew, to relaunch, to restart the Euro-Mediterranean dialogue and the Euro-Arab dialogue, it's also one of the big highlights. And in Barcelona, here in Spain, November 27, we have a very important meetings for Europe and also for the Arab countries and Israel. That is the Union for the Mediterranean meeting. It's going to be a great opportunity to start to discuss the next day after violence will stop in the Middle East. So Latin America, Balkans, and the countries that are in the enlargement process and the Euro-Mediterranean and Euro-Arab dialogue are the big highlights of our presidency.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ministro. Dear Lars, with a government coalition led by Social Democrats, Germany is once again putting forward a progressive agenda based on the values of respect, solidarity, and equality. Could you share with us some of the key achievements of the current government?
Yes, thank you. And I think what we do as Social Democrats in Germany, it's also important for the next year European election. And let me just mention 4 points that I think that are very important if you have a social democratic government. The first point is we have to see the challenges of people in their all-day life. This must be the main focus of politics of Social Democrats. That means housing, energy prices, inflation. It also means good jobs. And I remember when I was the campaign manager of Olaf Scholz and we presented the first posters of the campaign, and there was this 12 euro minimum wage. And all the journalists in Berlin said, oh, this is such a boring politics, because we know about all the debates about minimum wage. And let me say that very clear. For a social democrat, it's never boring if you have a position that will better the life of 7 million people in Germany. And we have to be very clear about that as European social democrats. And the second point where we must be very clear is that it's not climate against industry. It's both. It's climate and industry together. We can create a lot of new jobs if we do the right climate policy. It's innovation, it's new technologies, and this is how we should focus on climate policy, bringing new jobs to our countries. The third point is no cultural wars. I mean, I just came back from the United States, and if you see the election campaigns there, it's about cultural wars. And every time we have cultural wars in the election campaign about eating meat, about going to an airplane, about using the car, about how to speak and how to live, we will always lose as social democrats. It's much more better to focus on the all-day challenges people have. And the last point I want to mention, we need power. And I think Pedro gave a strong speech about that this morning. We have the right program, but we also need power as social democrats. That's the reason why we're happy to govern in Germany. That's the reason why we're happy that Pedro will be re-elected again. We hope that our comrades in UK will get in power. We hope that Frans Timmermans will become the next Prime Minister of the Netherlands. But we have to become the strongest party with the European elections, dear comrades. This must be the aim, and then we can fulfill our program.
Well, Magdalena, at the moment not really in power, but still the most popular party in Sweden. What are SUB's proposals to combat the rise of extreme right in the world? Can you share some best practices with us?
Thank you very much. Let me just start by briefly saying something about the situation in Sweden. I mean, since elections last year, our second largest party in parliament is the Sweden Democrats, which is a far-right nationalistic authoritarian party founded by neo-Nazis. They are not part of the government, but they are the largest party in the government coalition, and by 1 year in this period, most Swedes consider them as the party actually ruling our country, and I think that is also correct. And what we see after a year is that the hopes that the traditional rights had, that they could actually control this movement, that once they started cooperating with them, they would be controlled. Unfortunately, we see the other way around. It is the traditional conservative parties that are aligning with the Sweden Democrats. They are moving in their direction. And with all the confidence of being the second largest party, the Sweden Democrats are by now doing everything they can to threaten and silence critical voices in civil society, in culture, in academia, in our independent authorities. They want to silence opposition by specifically cutting the Social Democrats' financing, and they are attacking the trade unions. The only thing they're not doing, according to Viktor Orbán's handbook so far, is attacking our judicial system. So if you want to see an example of how quickly things can deteriorate, you are welcome to come to Sweden. And what we should really look into is the risk that conservatives on the European level will go in the Swedish direction. That would not be good for Europe, and therefore also this election is so important in June. What is the best way to fight the right wing? I think what Lars was saying is so important. We have to not get into the culture wars. I mean, they are trying to trigger us all the time, every day, with different kind of stupid proposals, just in order for us to go into that trap and fight a culture war. But that's the scene for the far right. We have to be those boring, traditional social democrats, talking about, just as you said, good wages, good housing, good education for our children, a good life for all citizens in our countries and in Europe. I think that's the best way forward, to beat them on the right-left arena of economic policy.
Thank you, Magdalena. Dear David, we are finishing this panel, and I'd like to ask you, how can progressive from Europe and the world increase the cooperation on advancing progressive policies?
There is so much that progressives here in Europe can do. I think the first thing that we must do in this cost of living crisis that's facing so many people is that we must reject the trickle-down economics of people like Liz Truss and Boris Johnson. It doesn't work for ordinary people. We've got to have proper industrial policy, and we hope to gain power so we can invest in a new British company, GB Energy, to bring down the costs for ordinary people. We need to get back to investing in health once again. The future of Europe is dependent on all of our young people. I think, as Lars suggested, we've got to resist this culture war that they want to drive us into. Ours is not the politics of division, it's the politics of unity. And it's hugely important that we continue to invest in our democracies, because what we see from the populists is a rolling back of notions that we considered to be normal, challenging the judiciary, causing problems with our public broadcasters, really challenging the norms that we in Europe have built for so many years, and we see this, of course, in Sweden. So solidarity at this time is important, a renewal of our democratic institutions, investment in our health service, investment in our education, and to be absolutely square and centre that we are back to a politics. Someone once said, it's the economy, stupid, that matters. We have to be there with ordinary people in a cost of living crisis.
Thank you, David, and thank you, all of you, and thank you really for sharing your value time and also your value ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's you, no?
Yes. I don't know where is Giacomo.
Maybe behind the scene. We're missing the Secretary General.
Giacomo. I don't know. I don't know. Because he has to make the closing part.
Is it on? Yes. Dear friends, sorry we had some technical problems. Another 2 minutes and we will hear from our President for some closing words. Just a few minutes of your patience, please. Yeah. Well, yes. Okay, friends. Just like life, sometimes we have some technical hiccups. But we are about to close our very successful Congress here in the beautiful Malaga with the beautiful weather. And to guide us to the next phase until the European elections, I would like to introduce our former and new PES President, Stéphane Le Ven.
Dear delegates, prime ministers, party leaders, PSOE members, activists, dear friends. So we are now getting to the end of our second day of our PES Congress, and I would like to first thank you so much again for the trust that you have once again placed in me. I thank you for working so tirelessly for the interest of the people, and I thank you for being the essence of the PES family. We are united and we have a vision for Europe, and that makes me truly proud to be PES president. Today, now I would like to end up with speaking in particular about three issues. The first, solidarity as the DNA of our political family. Second, our struggle, fight against the far right. And third, about the work to protect and empower people, not least visualized by PSOE and Pedro Sanchez. Comrades, in times of uncertainty, it is our duty to respond to the concerns of the people with solutions that make a real difference. Our movement was born out of the determination of brave women and men who refused to accept the existing state of affairs. Frustrated by injustice and inequality of their times, our founders sought to build a better society for all, a good society for all. Now, their willingness to work for everyone without prejudice, to stand up for the most vulnerable and to support the middle classes is also what drives us today. Throughout the years, socialism has shown that when united, people really have the power to dream, to rule, and to wrestle the world from fools, as musician and poet laureate Patti Smith continues to sing. Today we are living in a time of growing instability and inequality, times of resurgent armed conflicts, climate crisis, generational divides, rising despots, And our answer to this must be the one we have always given. Our answer is solidarity. It is about standing together, treating everyone fairly, and ensuring also that people can express themselves without fear. It is a bedrock of a just, equal, and free society. Solidarity, my dear friends, is a two-way street. It's important that we know that when we help the collective, we are also helping ourselves. And as long as society continues to value these principles, social democracy will forever be that bright red rose that continues to bloom. This, dear friends, is the essence of our DNA. But for us, solidarity is even beyond an issue of values. It's also about delivering real-life solutions. Fighting for better work conditions is not about winners and losers. It's about dignity for all. When one worker is respected, all are respected. Fighting poverty is not a distant dream. It's about common human decency. When one rises, we all rise. Closing gender gap. Women empowerment is not a simple trend, it's a progress. When women succeed, we all succeed. Achieving climate neutrality is not a fantasy. It is our responsibility to make the world a cleaner place. And when one works for a healthy planet, the whole planet benefits. Working for a fairer distribution of wealth is not about more rhetoric, it's about fairness. Taxing the ultra-rich benefits the many, not the few. Housing is not a privilege, it's a right. Let's make it affordable for all. And finally, for us, protecting democracy is not just an option. It is about protecting the most important element of political progress. Our unity in defending democracy benefits us, our children, and generations to come. So, dear comrades, solidarity for the individual is really solidarity for all, and it is what unites us in our daily work as socialists and democrats. Our project is about building a society that serves every citizen, where everyone is safe, healthy, and valued. A society where everyone is empowered, regardless of gender, background, age, or sexual orientation. That is why we firmly believe that the European Union is the most important political project our continent has ever undertaken. It's a project born out of the ashes of war, a project of peace. This was demonstrated when the COVID-19 struck. Thanks in large part to socialists and social democrats, the EU not only acted quickly with the Recovery EU program, but also played a crucial role in ensuring that workers kept their jobs through the SURE instrument, that the population had widespread access to vaccines, and that the different health systems held on. At the same time, this crisis clearly underlined the need for greater investments to support those systems, both within the EU but also globally. The EU's contribution to global vaccine solidarity was key, and we can be very proud of this achievement. European solidarity was again demonstrated this year as major wildfires spread across countries, Spain, Portugal, Greece. The EU mobilized its civil protection mechanism to help countries in need. And I can assure you, in Sweden, we will never forget the help we got from the EU in 2018 when our forest was burning. European solidarity also transcends our borders. When Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine began, we stood firmly behind Ukraine and its people, supporting the country's military efforts, its economy and future reconstruction. Ukrainians have the right to live in peace and security and the right to defend themselves against Russian aggression, and the PES family pushed for the activation of the temporary protection mechanism to respond to the millions of people that had to flee Ukraine, entering EU countries in search of peace and shelter. So for us, the European Union is the embodiment of our principle of solidarity. It is our duty as progressives to lead the way with bold, progressive solutions to the world's challenges based on this very key principle. It is now time to promote this principle of solidarity within the European Union and far beyond our borders. So, comrades, multilateralism has never been more important than now. Building on the international nature of our movement, progressives must continue to support the global rules-based order that emerged after the Second World War, built around the United Nations. The European Union must play a central role supporting the United Nations. I am reminded of the words of the American poet William Stafford when he wrote this: "The wars we haven't had saved many lives." But unfortunately today, war and conflict are again upon people in our neighborhood. Next year, the United Nations will host the Summit of the Future, where UN member states will be called to decide on measures that will deliver more equitable and official global governance system. The scale of today's challenges is global, so that it is vital to strengthen cooperation between nations and the United Nations. We must support this in cooperation with all our like-minded partners. The war in Ukraine, the terrorist attacks on Hamas on the 7th of October, and the suffering of countless Palestinian civilians today are all stark reminders of exactly that. Israelis and Palestinians have both a right to peace and security and a right to self-determination, and we don't take side for one or the other against. The PES position is very clear. We take side for values. We stand against barbarism. We stand against terrorism, against violence, against attacks on civilians. We stand for the UN Charter, for human rights, international law, and humanitarian law. We stand for Israel and Palestine. These principles are not negotiable, and there should be no exceptions. Dear friends, political and economic instability is often the roots of widespread poverty, war, and conflict. And the most vulnerable sections of our societies are always the first to feel the effects. As a result, millions of migrants and refugees are forced to leave their countries in search for a better life. Migration has existed for as long as humanity has. And the right to seek asylum is a legal right, and it is also a moral duty. Now, the rhetoric of the right-wing nationalists that they will stop them is nothing but a demagogic trick to win votes. It is destined to fail, depriving those that are in real need of international protection from this right. So when it comes to asylum and migration, we must manage and organize it with a good, progressive framework in place. We must build trust and cooperate with like-minded partners worldwide. We must promote efficient inclusion policies. This is a way to make it a win for our societies, a win for the migrants, a win for those in protection. This is a way our family is proposing and implementing in Europe, not the way the far-right government in Italy tries to follow by outsourcing and sending asylum seekers to Albania. What we need to do is to stop the illegal human trafficking, have well-managed legal avenues. What we need is to act in full cooperation with the African Union, with the United Nations, and with other international partners. What we need is to act on the base of the respect of human rights and also matching the needs and capacity of each member state. We must continue to push for a coordinated European asylum and migration policy, so the final adoption of the Pact on Migration and Asylum, based on a fair, safe, sustainable and predictable approach, is essential to actually be able to protect the individual rights of asylum seekers and also the solidarity between member states. We must continue working towards the conclusion of the pact. In almost every aspect of politics, international cooperation is key. So we need to enhance mutual beneficial cooperation with third countries to ensure that human rights are respected. We must be unwavering in our support for the Global South, maintaining robust diplomatic ties and providing both financial as well as humanitarian aid. We must empower people and secure the conditions that will allow them the opportunity of a good life at home, the opportunities of a future, the real opportunities so that people are not driven to make the dangerous journey across desert and overseas in search for a better life. And here too, our answer, our path, is the path of solidarity. What is good for the Global South is good for us. Let us firmly assert that what benefits one benefits us all. What benefits Ukraine strengthens Europe. The welfare of migrants and refugees reflects the strength of our entire society, and the prosperity of Global South is intricately tied to Europe's and world's prosperity. As progressives, my friend, it is our role as to lead the change in making this vision a reality. But dear friends, we also face a very dark opposition. Right now, the rights of women, the LGBTI community, multilateralism, migrants, asylum seekers and refugees are under attack from the far-right movements. The rule of law is being undermined and democracy has been weakened by constant violations of fundamental rights in the EU, led by regressive governments. We now see growing support for the far right from the traditional right, which has contributed massively to its normalization in the political landscape and the spread of regressive ideas in our societies. We condemn this rapprochement in the strongest terms. Our message to EPP and ALDE parties that makes deals with the far right is quite simple. You cannot be pro-European and democratic at the same time making deals with parties that are fundamentally anti-EU and are autocratic. It doesn't work. People know the danger of such alliances, and that is why here in Spain, citizens sent a clear message to the PP and the far-right party Vox by placing their trust in PSOE. And in this regard, I echo Pedro's call for European socialists and democrats to be the bulwark of European values. And as Olof Palme once said, for us, democracy is a question of human dignity, and I couldn't agree more. That is why it is crucial that we reaffirm that citizens' rights and freedom are not negotiable, that Europe's democracy is not for sale. So let us be very clear. Socialists and Democrats will always be against the far right and what they stand for. We will always fight against the normalization of the extreme right. Socialists and Democrats will always exclude extreme right-wing parties from any political majority, and we are against them because for us, all people are equal, all people have equal rights. It is that simple. So we are, dear friends, at the right place at the right time to convey this message. What PSOE and Pedro Sanchez achieved this summer shows that social democratic ideas are still relevant for millions and millions of people. And as Pablo Iglesias Posse, founder of PSOE, famously said, socialists don't die, they are sown. So socialists in Spain have proven this once again. With Pedro Sanchez, PSOE has sown the seeds of hope against the far right. And today, we are proudly looking forward to have socialists at the head of the new progressive government here in Spain very, very soon. The Spanish people have spoken clearly, and in a few weeks, the people of Netherlands will give the same message and put Frans Timmermans as the Prime Minister in Netherlands. People have chosen progress over regression. They've chosen the political force that protects the people. And that is because PSOE is a party of gender equality, social progress and democracy, the party of shared prosperity, the party of Europe. And we couldn't be prouder of having such an historical party within our ranks and also hosting this Congress. May this not only be a source of pride, but also motivation and inspiration for what is to come. Today, we'll once again celebrate social democratic ideals, our vision for the future. We had here with us, this Congress, so many leaders of our political family. Pedro, Olaf, Marcel, Robert, Irache, Franz, Eli, Lars, Magdalena, Paul, Ivana, Mette, Nikos, Olivier, Petra, and so many others. With such a lineup, my friends, I'm sure that we will be inspired and strengthened for what is to come. Compañeros y compañeros, as we prepare for the next European election in 2024, it is time to stand up. To stand up for democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights, for the Green Deal and a just transition that protects citizens' well-being, for quality jobs and an economy made for the people. It's time to stand up for the rights of women and girls, for the rights of the LGBTI community, for European and international solidarity. It is time to stand up for a European Union in the lead with progressive solutions to global challenges. Our next appointment will be the PES Electoral Congress in Rome early next year. I look forward to seeing you there. And we are now, dear friends, standing together in the fight for a future of justice and equality, and together we will win the 2024 European elections. Adelante, Europa! Adelante, socialismo! Adelante, social democracia! Thank you.
Una mattina mi sto svegliato. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Una mattina mi sto svegliato e ho trovato l'invasore. Oh partigiano, portami via. Oh bella ciao, bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Partigiano, portami via, perché mi sento di morire. E se muoio da partigiano